series. Welcome to another episode of Star Wars Lore ASMR, where we pick a topic in Star Wars and dive deep into it while doing ASMR with various items related to that topic. Today, we're doing a lore video dedicated to Cad Bane. I thought, given his recent appearance in Book of Boba Fett, he would be a fun one to give his bio and life story. So, general reminders before we begin. There's going to be spoilers on any part of Star Wars, including movies, shows, books, comics, video games, anything. So if you're holding out on any content and you don't want spoilers, you might want to click off. And also, for now at least, this series is canon only. As with, most characters, there's a lot more material from Legends, but for now, I'm only pulling from canon sources. So before we begin, I'll give a brief overview of what items we have here. So of course, we have two Cad Bane figures. We have the Black Series 6-inch figure and the Clone Wars toy line 375-inch figure, which comes with a dodo. And we have, this is a expansion for a tabletop war game called Star Wars Legion. So this is like a Cad Bane tabletop piece, and it comes with all the rules and cards to add Cad Bane to your Separatist army. We have an Obi-Wan Clone Wars figure, because he plays a pretty big role in a few Cad Bane arcs. We have a Boba Fett figure, because of course, Cad Bane's appearance in the Book of Boba Fett, and then I'm trying something new here. We're actually going to start with these, but some printouts of pictures to sort of add more context, but also, hopefully there'll be some nice paper noises. So there are the items we got. Let me move some stuff aside here, because we're actually going to be starting with the paper. And I'm slightly changing, or I'm sort of adding a new addition to the series. On all the other ones, I just sort of get right into it. But I wanted to kind of, before I do Cad Bane's life story, I wanted to give like a bio, kind of who he was and what he was like before what he did. So we're gonna start with that. So Cad Bane is a member of the Duro species. So I have a few examples here that are not Cad Bane. this is from A New Hope. So, Duros did make an appearance in 1977. And this is from Battlefront 2. So, they have blue or kind of like a blue-green skin, glowing red eyes, a lack of nose, and a large head, as you can see. Now, Duros are not to be confused with the Jizz species, of which Grand Admiral Thrawn is a member. They also have blue skin and red eyes, but they have otherwise normal human proportions. Hopefully you can hear the paper noises. I actually really like paper. It's one of my favorite ASMR triggers. Anyways, Duros also have green blood, which we'll see actually comes into play in one of Cad Bane's stories. Also, not super relevant, but in Light of the Jedi, a New High Republic book, we learned that Duros have sacs on their chests that secrete oils that smell and taste foul, which was like a evolutionary thing when they're in high stress, because it helped prevent the predators of the planet Duro, which they have all done from, eating them. Okay, that's enough about the Duro species. Let's go ahead and talk about Cad Bane himself. He was, of course, one of the most ruthless bounty hunters of his time, standing amongst even Jango Fett and Boba Fett. Cad Bane himself wasn't really intrinsically evil, but he didn't care at all for his employer's motives, intentions, or goals, and was willing to do just about any job for anyone for the right price. In fact, Cad Bane's specialty was actually dealing with Force sensitives like Jedi, and a lot of his gear, which we'll see in a minute, is designed around being able to combat them effectively. Cad Bane often found himself employed by the Sith and the Separatists, and went toe-to-toe successfully with Jedi, even as powerful as people like Quinlan Vos and Obi-Wan Kenobi. He also proved himself very intelligent, time and time again, often outsmarting his opponents, and even though he preferred working alone, he was able to lead a team successfully on one occasion. So as far as his overall outfit and aesthetic, it changes slightly throughout his life, but it kind of has the same general feel, which is like a futuristic Western outlaw. So, there's the Clone Wars look. There's the Bad Batch look. And there's the Book of Boba Fett look. So, he had a change of clothes. But it's all generally the same vibe. Personally, I absolutely love this look. I think it fits in with Star Wars incredibly well, and just looks super awesome. And those Western style standoff duel scenes that we got in Book of Boba Fett recently were definitely some of my favorite scenes from the entire show. Anyways, as you can see, he's known for his sort of duster coats, and more notably, his large brim hat that definitely gives him that Western outlaw a sort of a robotic twine or like metallic warble effect. Probably because of the tubes that go down his throat. For his live action appearance in the Book of Boba Fett, you can see here, his Western aesthetic stayed the same, but they altered his facial proportions a bit, faded his skin, and gave him a much more menacing and scary vibe. I think the differences are explainable by him, aging many decades. There being differences in live action versus animated, and also, many members of a species can look different, so I think the differences are explainable, and personally, I think he looks awesome in live action. So definitely cool to see him. So anyways, let's talk about his equipment now. Like I mentioned, he has dual blasters. Those are LL-30 blaster pistols as his primary weapon. He also has gauntlets. So his gauntlets have a built-in flamethrower and also an electroshock apparatus built in. As you can see here, he's using it on Obi-Wan to incapacitate him with a shock. He has rocket boots that allow him to fly, which is definitely one of the main reasons that he can keep up with and be so nimble with Jedi, because he has the boots that allow him to be very quick and also take to the skies at any moment. So the equipment he's got here makes him very versatile. And then finally, as you can see in all the pictures and on the figures, he has a pack on his back that connects to tubes on his cheek, and they actually run down his throat, and that's to help him defend against force choke attacks from force sensitives. And now lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Dodo 360. So I don't actually have a picture of him, but there he is. Dodo 360 is a techno-service droid that often accompanied Cad Bane. And Dodo is Cad Bane's loyal droid, but also often, provides some comic relief. It is the butt of Cad Bane's sort of snarky remarks. For example, one line in the Clone Wars that I've always found funny is, Dodo says, "I am a techno-service droid, not a butler droid." And Cad Bane replies, "Can it, Dodo? You are what I say you are." Which I've always found kind of funny. Okay, so there's kind of the description of Cad Bane, what he's like, his aesthetic, his equipment, stuff like that. So kind of a new segment. Let me know if you guys like that, or do you want me to just get into the story and the chronology? aside for now, and we'll go ahead and start with, how about the Legion box? I think that makes a nice noise. So anyways, Cad Bane was born in the year 62 BBY on the planet Duro. For reference, that's 40 years before the start of the Clone Wars. We don't know a ton about his early life or how he started his bounty hunting career in canon, but we do know he was mentored, even if briefly, by Jango Fett. The first canon story we have about Cad Bane is actually in the Darth Maul comic that takes place before Phantom Menace, so at least 10 years before we see him in the Clone Wars. He met Maul on Nar Shaddaa, a city moon that orbited Nalhada. He was contracted, along with Aura Singh and a few other bounty hunters, to help acquire a Jedi Padawan. After they stole the Padawan from an auction, Bane, Maul, and the others of this uneasy alliance attempted to escape, but their ship was sabotaged by Zev Zerexis, which is definitely a hard name to say, but it's the person that was running the auction. They crashed on the moon of Drazgul, and Zev turned it into a sport to hunt them down. Bane and the other bounty hunters fought their way out and stole a ship from the Onaka gang, picked up Maul, who had just killed the Jedi, received their payment, and dropped off Maul to kill Zev. So that's the first canon story about Cad Bane. Now, we jump ahead to the Clone Wars, which kicks off with the death of Jango Fett, so Cad Bane probably becomes the, best, most well-known bounty hunter in the galaxy. The first mission he undertakes during the Clone Wars was the holocron heist, where he was employed by Darth Sidious to steal a holocron from the Jedi archives. Palpatine gives him a map of the temple, which he installs in Toto, in addition to an explosive device. Cad breaks into the temple through the ventilation shafts, along with Cato Parasiti, a shapeshifter disguised as a Jedi, who went directly to the archives to assist Cad on the computer. Ahsoka eventually discovers and defeats Cato, but Bane is still successful in his mission, evading Anakin and Obi-Wan by sending Toto to the communication center with the bomb. Toto explodes after Mace force pushes him into the vents. Don't worry, he'll be back. But meanwhile, Cad Bane takes the holocron from the vault and sneaks out of the Jedi Temple in a Jedi robe. I really like how this box sounds, but let's switch to the Black Series figure. Maybe we'll come back to that box. So here's the Black Series figure. So I've kind of dabbled a lot with the question, do action figures themselves make nice noises, like moving the joints around? And I think they do, but definitely let me know down below what you guys think. So anyways, let's continue, and I'll try to articulate Cad Bane as loud as possible. Anyways, Cad Bane is contracted by Sidious again after he steals the holocron to undertake the second part of the mission, kidnapping the Jedi Paul Rapal and having him use his Kyber crystal to open the holocron, revealing the location of the galaxy's Force-sensitive children. Cad Bane accidentally kills Rapal aboard the Separatist frigate trying to get him to open the holocron, but he hatches a new plan when he sees Anakin and Ahsoka attacking the ship. Cad flees the bridge before the Jedi arrive, and a fight breaks out in the gunnery room where Cad Bane turns off the artificial gravity. Bane manages to escape with the holocron, fleeing down the hallway while Ahsoka chases him. Ahsoka defeats him at first, but while on the ground he manages to grab Ahsoka's leg with his electric gauntlet that we saw before, shocking her and then placing her in stun cuffs. When Anakin arrives, he is forced to unlock the holocron or let Ahsoka die, and of course, he chooses the former. Cad Bane escapes by opening the airlock, but manages to get back on the ship. Defeats two clones named Denal and Koho. Dons Denal's armor and sneaks aboard the shuttle with the clones. Back on the Venator, Ahsoka and a clone discover Cad Bane's green blood on the shuttle, which is why I said the fact that Duros have green blood was kind of important. So they find out that Cad Bane's disguise is a clone, but he still manages to get away by stealing a V-19 turret and flying off. Cad Bane is then tasked by Sidious again to kidnap Force-sensitive children and bring them to Mustafar. He manages to capture two of the children before Ahsoka and Anakin are waiting for him on Naboo when he goes to capture the third, and they're able to apprehend him. They try to mind trick Cad Bane to find out where the other two younglings went. But, not being weak-minded, the mind trick doesn't work on him. So, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Mace Windu all try to do the mind trick simultaneously, which causes Cad Bane great pain. So he agrees to cooperate. Cad Bane leads Kenobi and Windu to a space station where there are no children, but he says he brought them back to retrieve the holocron. They trigger the defense system turrets, and Cad Bane manages to escape the station in an escape pod, this time for good. And then, of course, I won't get into it, but Anakin and Ahsoka do manage to track down the children and rescue them before it's too late. The next time in the Clone Wars that Cad Bane shows up, he's actually working for the Hutts instead of the Sith. The chronology is a bit confusing here. So, Zero the Hutt was captured in the Clone Wars film, by the Republic. Then Cad Bane kicks off his plan to rescue him in Season 3, completes the plan in his first appearance in the show in Season 1, with the Senate hostage crisis. Then finally, this arc concludes back in Season 3. So the story kind of jumps all over the place. But basically, the Hutts hired Cad Bane to break Zero the Hutt out of Republic prison because Zero had information that the Hutts didn't want the Republic to know. The Hutts themselves also don't really like Zero. So, anyways, in sort of the first part of his plot, Cad Bane has Dodo rebuilt. So, let's switch to these two. There he is. Gotta have the hat. So Cad Bane has Dodo rebuilt from the previous explosion. And then they kidnap R2-D2 and C-3PO, download the Senate plans, and wipe their memories so they don't remember any of it or warn anyone. I don't think this guy makes much noise, unfortunately. So Cad Bane, now with the Senate plans, teams up with several other hunters, including Aura Singh, infiltrates the Senate building, eliminates the guards, and takes a group of senators, including Padme, hostage. His hat kind of falls off really easily with this figure. Kind of with the Black Series figure too. Anyways, so they now have the senators hostage. And when one of the senators didn't cooperate, Cad Bane shoots him in the back and threatens all the other senators. Afterwards, Bane contacts Palpatine and demands a pardon disc for Zero the Hutt. Also, it's worth noting, Anakin was actually in the temple, but he didn't have his lightsaber. Padme had it, so he wasn't really much of a help, and the hunters actually were able to subdue him. So anyways, one of the senators, Orn Frita, went to the prison to retrieve Zero. And upon his return, Cad Bane, the other hunters, and Zero made their escape. They were pursued by the Jedi after, but managed to flee the planet. Back on Nalhutta, where Zero was delivered. Zero escaped from the Hutt prison when the singer Snoodles breaks him out. The Hutts hire Cad Bane once again, and he tracks them to the planet Death, with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Quinlan Vos trailing right behind him. As it turns out, Snoodles was against Zero the whole time, and Cad Bane and the Jedi found Zero already dead, killed by Don't ever talk to me or my son again. let's see, where were we? Oh yeah, so Cad Bane, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Quinlan Vos discover Zero already dead, and Cad Bane suggests they just part ways, but, you know, of course, since he had just held the Senate hostage and killed one of them, Kenobi and Vos try to apprehend him. So Cad Bane holds his own reasonably well against the two very powerful Jedi, in large part due to his rocket boots and tech, such as his shock gauntlet and flamethrower. So, these two pictures are actually from this fight. At one point, Cad Bane even uses Vos's lightsaber, and briefly has a lightsaber duel with Obi-Wan. So it kind of shows how skilled of a combatant he really is. So he does eventually manage to get back to his ship and escape the clutches of Kenobi and Vos. Once again, the last time that we see Cad Bane in canon Clone Wars is the Obi-Wan deception arc. So I'll take this guy out for now. So in this arc, Cad Bane and a bunch of other hunters were hired by Dooku to kidnap Chancellor Palpatine, and Obi-Wan actually managed to secretly tag along, disguised as bounty hunter Reiko Hardeen. So Cad Bane found himself imprisoned, most likely willingly. He had a plan to break the criminal mastermind Moralo Evil out, who was to be in charge of the operation to kidnap Palpatine. So I'm not going to go through all the details, but basically Boba Fett, who has no other part in this arc other than this, start the prison riot for Cad Bane and Obi-Wan, disguised as Hardeen, makes himself very valuable in the escape. So Cad Bane doesn't trust Reiko, and rightly so, but Moralo Evil sees him as an asset and has him join in on the plan, despite Cad Bane's constant attempts to get rid of him. At one point, Anakin and Ahsoka manage to track the three down and a fight ensues, but Bane, Evil, and Kenobi to escape before any harm is done. This leads them to Sereno, where Evil has prepared a tournament inside a massive box to determine who will be on the team. Before even entering the box, Cad Bane spots an Ithorian with a hat that he likes, so he kills him on the spot and takes his hat and says, "What? It was a nice hat." I thought that was kind of funny. Again, I don't want to go into all the details, but inside the box, Obi-Wan proves his abilities. Moralo Evil turns out to be a poor leader, and Cad Bane is actually granted the leadership of the team by Dooku himself. Now on Theed, which is the capital of Naboo, Cad Bane explains his plan, which the team pulls off very well, despite Obi-Wan even feeding information directly to the Jedi. When Bane and Evil get to the rendezvous point with Palpatine in tow, Dooku is a no-show, and for them. Obi-Wan is able to subdue Bane finally and save the Chancellor, who, of course, being a Sith Lord, he didn't actually need saving, but no one knew that at the time. But anyways, Bane says, Kenobi, I should have known. Something smelled wrong about you from the start. So there isn't any more canon material on Cad Bane in the Clone Wars, but it's likely he broke out of prison pretty quickly after he was captured. After all, he says in this last arc, it's not the first time I've broken out of this stinkhole. I just really like the way Cad Bane talks and his mannerisms. I've always found them funny. So anyways, from there are a few sources that say Cad Bane mentored Boba Fett, but there isn't any specific information on to what extent. So here's Boba. There's also a render of an unfinished Clone Wars arc that Filoni has released and shown, and I would call it pseudo-canon. So Cad Bane and Boba have a duel sometime around the fall of the Republic, when Boba has finally donned his father's armor that you can see here. So they both shoot each other in the head during the duel, but of course Boba's wearing a helmet, so instead of dying, he gets that signature dent in his helmet. So the reason this seems to be canon, or a very good possibility that it is canon, is because in the Book of Boba Fett, and I think maybe the Bad Batch as well, when Cad Bane's hat comes off, we see a large metal plate on his head. So, right here on his head, which would suggest that he got shot in the head, and that's the wound from his duel. So, hopefully, at some point in the future, they make this duel a reality. Perhaps for, Bad Batch Season 2 or maybe something else, but I would really like to see that become, definite canon. So, anyways, let's see, moving on to the Bad Batch show. So, he's, going to this appearance right here. Cad Bane doesn't have a huge role, but he was in 2 episodes around the middle of the season. Toto 360 is with him as well, so we get to see Toto again, but it's the last time we see him, at least for now. We don't know where he was during Book of Boba Fett. So anyways, Cad Bane was hired by the Kaminoan Lama Su to retrieve Omega, the only female clone of Jango Fett, who was on the run with the Bad Batch. He's able to track down the Bad Batch and intercepts them on Braca, just as they are escaping from the Empire's attack. He's able to kill all the Imperial clones who are guarding and staked out at the Bad Batch's shuttle, and waits for the gang to show up. The first 2 to arrive are Hunter and Omega. Omega. Cad Bane says, I've taken down so many clones over the years. Once you figure out one, the rest are easy. Before he and Hunter duel, Bane shoots Hunter in the chest, incapacitating but not killing him, and was able to kidnap Omega. Hunter did get a shot off during the duel, but it hit Dodo 360 instead of Bane and blasted off one of his legs. So, oops. Poor Dodo lost a leg. So back on his ship, Cad Bane contacted his employers to drop off Omega on a planet called Boravio. By the time he got to the surface, Omega had outsmarted Dodo by having him let her out of the cell, fixing his leg like she said she would, and then deactivating him. By the time Bane found out and reactivated Dodo, Omega had already fled off the ship. Fennec Shand also arrived on the planet, hired by a different Kaminoan Nala Se, and killed the contact to whom Cad Bane was supposed to deliver Omega. The two got into a somewhat lengthy fight, but it ended in a draw when they realized Omega had escaped in a flight pod. So, it was pretty cool to see Cad Bane and Fennec fight. Fennec flew off in her own ship, but Cad Bane's was sabotaged, so he wasn't able to pursue Omega, who had now been picked up by the Bad Batch. Following his appearance in the Bad Batch, there aren't any canon details or stories about his whereabouts or doings. The next time we see him isn't until the Book of Boba Fett, around 30 years later. So, I think we already took this guy out briefly, but we're moving on to Book of Boba Fett, so here's, of course, vintage collection Boba Fett. Unfortunately, the card I have is kind of damaged, which sucks, but oh well. There's a bunch more Boba Fett figures coming out fairly soon, but I don't think they're re-releasing Empire Strikes Back, at least to my knowledge. So anyways, now 30 years later, after the fall of the Empire, Cad Bane is hired by the Pike Syndicate on Tatooine to impose their will and keep the spice flowing. After the Mandalorian visits Freetown and convinces Cad Bane to help in the fight against the Pikes, Cad Bane is spotted through the desert haze, walking in on foot. So, there he is walking in. So, I really love this scene with like the desert haze and seeing him walk in. Actually, this is after he walks in because he has his sort of head down, covering his eyes the whole time. But anyways, it does seem a little silly that Cad Bane didn't take a speeder and walked across the desert. But it made for some really awesome looking shots as he walked in, so I don't really mind. He tells Cad Bane, I'd be careful where I was sticking my nose if I were you. Which was a really awesome line, but also kind of humorous because Cad Bane himself doesn't have a nose. Bane, Van, and the deputy of Freetown duel. And Bane takes them both out before either of them can even get a single shot off. He announces to the town that Tatooine belongs to the Syndicate. As long as the spice keeps running, everyone will be left alone before leaving. So, that was a really awesome kind of appearance. First appearance in live action. Back in Mos Espa, Boba Fett, Din Djarin, and Fennec Shand hunker down in the ruins of the destroyed sanctuary, preparing for war. Bane came out still under the pretense of negotiations, and actually informed Boba that the Pikes killed his Tusken Raider tribe, not the biker gang. This angered Boba Fett, and he ends negotiations on the spot. Cad Bane leaves without conflict, at least for now. After the battle broke out with the Pikes, the people of Freetown did eventually arrive, deciding to go against Cad Bane's advisement. Also, we find out at the end that Cobb Vanth wasn't fatally shot. Late in the battle, Cad Bane confronted Boba while Boba was still on his rancor, using his flamethrower to spook it and causing Boba to dismount. The two have another Western-style duel, and Cad Bane proves to be faster than Boba, hitting him twice in his Beskar armor and knocking him to the ground. So now, Cad Bane goes for the speech instead of the instant killing blow, which, like many villains, kind of proves to be to his detriment. After pulling off Boba's helmet, Cad Bane says, "Consider this my final lesson. Look out for yourself. Anything else is weakness." And pulls the trigger on his blaster for the killing blow. But Boba uses his gaffy stick to knock the blaster aside and gets back to his feet. After a very brief fight, Cad Bane is knocked to the ground, and he says, "I knew you were a killer," before Boba delivers what seems like the killing blow. I say what seems like because after Boba Fett leaves, the camera zooms in on Cad Bane, and there's a light blinking on his chest, as well as the sound of a faint beeping alarm. It could be nothing, but Cad Bane may still be alive and will be rescued by someone or something before he dies. Maybe even Dodo. So, personally, I hope we see Cad Bane again. Whether it's, before this show and the time between the Bad Batch and now, or perhaps he's not dead and will return in a future season of Book of Boba or Mandalorian. Regardless, I think Cad Bane is definitely a top tier see in live action. So hopefully it's not the end of his story, and we get a lot more. So anyways, that's it, guys. That's his bio and story so far. Like I said, I, kind of tried a new thing, doing sort of like a bio and character description before the chronology, so let me know what you guys thought, and let me know what you guys think of Cad Bane and his recent appearance. So, for now though, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed.